A very good morning to you and yours. It's a pleasure to be back on 360 Sports on a Boxing Day. By the way, compliment of the season to you and welcome to 360 Sports on Trust Television. My name is Martia Umar. Of course, I've got my ride or die, yes, on the sports. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Martia, and compliments of the season.
Compliment of the season. I can see you're flying the colors.
Yes, yes. Football is back, and
Yes.
we need to fly those colors.
Of course, we just need to talk about a lot of things today.
Yeah.
You know, and I could say that it's strategic or it was planned that, you know, after the World Cup we have one of the biggest showpiece for football coming back. And
Yes, that's the Premier League.
Yes.
And you know, we've always looked forward to Boxing Day every season. Every season we look forward to Boxing Day football on the Premier League because there's so much action. And this year is no different. Even though there's the break of the World Cup actually came, they still managed to squeeze in Boxing Day football for all of us sports fans. So it's absolutely fantastic.
all right, so hold your horses because there's a lot to talk about on the World Cup and also getting into what's for the focus that the Boxing Day and all of the jinx, the thrillers, the actions. Of course, we get to talk about them on the program this morning. But let's start with the home front where the Eagles, the Flying Eagles, under 20 will begin their campaign with Senegal. Of course, the draw has been made and Coach Ladan Boso will be leading the Flying Eagles squad as they battle Senegal Young Teranga Lions in the first games of the 2023 African Cup of Nations under 20 billed for Egypt. And recall that the draw for the under 20 African Nations Championship was done on Friday in Cairo. And in that result, in that draw, we saw that Nigeria have been placed in one of the strongest group, I would say. In that group, we have Mozambique, Senegal, and Nigeria. So this is how the table looks right now. We'll be having all of these people campaigning and seeing who becomes the champion. Now, if I look at the table, we saw, you know, that draw.
Yes.
And then we are looking forward to what happens.
Yes.
We'll be facing Teranga Lions.
Yeah, there was lots of hearts and mouths moment when those draws came in. I mean, like we're going to be facing Egypt, Senegal, and of course Mozambique. I mean, Egypt and Senegal are formidable teams when it comes to, and of course when it comes to the age grade competitions, and most especially Senegal right now, their youth development is absolutely fantastic. They are getting lots of players through the conveyor belt, and I think that is what's feeding into the national team right now, and that's why they're doing fantastic on the African continent. Egypt, we know how good they always are. The North Africans, we know how they dominate African football and all that.
Even from their local league,
Exactly.
the Al Ahly has been you know, dominating for a very long time.
Dominated African football for a very long time, and we know that they have got very, very good young players, and it's going to be a tough one for the Eagles, really. I think we really need to be at the top of our game. Even Mozambique, that we're not talking about, can actually spring a surprise, because that is what happens. You know, we discount some teams, and then at the end of the day, they become the Achilles heel at the end of the day. So that's the thing. So we need to be focused. I think we have the boys to actually do that. We have the technical crew to do a very good showing there. So if we can come out of this group unscathed, then definitely we're going to go very far. Whoever comes out of this group, because it's a very tough one, really.
All right, so let's look at the table again. I can see some other countries that might be pulling up surprises in this campaign. I can see, of course, Egypt will be facing Mozambique today, and then we also have Mozambique actually, okay, they make it. It will be in February, you know, for Senegal, and then we are some tricky one there, Egypt and Senegal. The Teranga Lions facing
the young pharaohs. The thing is, this group is actually filled with lots of blockbuster encounters. When you talk about Nigeria, Egypt, you talk about Egypt, Senegal, you talk about Nigeria, Senegal. Absolutely fantastic games there. But still, I still reiterate, we should not discount Mozambique. Mozambique are actually, they're dark horses. They can come up and pull up a surprise, and it's under 20, so it's really unpredictable when that thing happens. So I think we'll get a better idea of what the Mozambique team can actually do when they face Egypt in the opening match. That is when we can be able to gauge.
Okay, the Flying Eagles have always, showed strength when it comes to competition like this, especially for African Cup of Nations. And now we're beginning this campaign next year. And I wouldn't say that we're prepared because we have just very little time before we get into the pitch and, show finesse, just like we have always done. Do you think the under-20 team actually ready for this campaign?
The thing is, we always mostly rely on individual brilliance when it comes to things like this. Individual
but
players
it hasn't worked over the years.
Of course, that's the problem. Sometimes we ride our luck and we go there and we have a good showing, but it's based on individual players. But when it comes to the preparation, we are absolutely not there. We always do this. When it comes to a tournament, we never prepare. We don't camp on time. We don't get the right players. We don't get the right technical team in place. And then at the end of the day, we go there, we mess ourselves up, and we come back and we say, okay, we're going to do things differently next time around, and it doesn't happen. And we do the same thing over and over again. And I think that is the same case here. If Nigeria fails to make a very good showing in this Africa Cup of Nations, I will really not be surprised because our level of preparations is zero. We have not prepared well. We have not put things in place. Don't be surprised now when the tournament's about to start, or when it starts, that's when you start having problems of logistics, tickets not being delivered on time, passports not being processed, accommodation issues, flight issues, all these things that we are supposed to have put in place for a very long time.
Even something as big as their kits.
Exactly.
Because without your kids, you can't play.
Exactly. We can go there and you say, okay, no, the kids were on another flight, they didn't come in on time. All these things that we don't need really put in place. That is what happens. So even in as much as we want to do well on the pitch, things that happen off the pitch affect what happens on the pitch as well. So if you're not well prepared in all aspects, that is when you have problems like this. So I really would not be surprised if Nigeria's under-20 goes there and messes themselves up at the end of the day, but we hope that that's not the case, and we're still going to rely on individual brilliance, and we hope we have the players that can actually go there and make us proud.
I think Nigeria is maybe being comfortable with being, second, third position, especially from the continent, and then moving it out. I think we're fine with, we moved past group stage. We went to semi-finals, which is really, really not enough.
It's not enough.
And it seems that we're being comfortable, and that's why we need to step our game up.
Yeah, in all categories of football, that's the problem that we actually have. When it comes to the men's game, I mean, like the Eagles, when was the last time the Eagles did anything fantastic on the African continent? It was a very long time ago. You understand?
2013.
That is the thing. That was the last time we did anything on the African continent, which is really, when it comes to Nigeria in Africa, that's appalling. Even our ladies now are not dominating the African football the way they used to be, because we were at the summit, we were beating everybody, and then we got comfortable. We're not developing players, we're not making things right the way we're supposed to do them, and that is where our problem lies. So I think now we can start with this under-20 team. Since we're trying to rebuild or reboot the Super Eagles, this is a very good hunting ground for us to get new, young, vibrant players that can actually make it to the Super Eagles and make a difference for us. But if we don't get it right here, then we won't get it right all through.
So in the beginning, we started the conversation with Nigeria relying on individual players. In the women's team, we see that acting out. In the men's team as well, we see that acting out. Take, for instance, Osimhen, for instance. You put all of your eggs in one basket and you're waiting for Osimhen to deliver.
And unfortunately,
Osimhen is not, he's not a god in... I wouldn't place him in that category.
And no matter how good a player is, there are off days. He will have an off day. I mean, like, he can get injured, just like what happened to us in the AFCON. We had so much faith, we had so much belief that Osimhen was going to come and do the business. At the end of the day, he got injured, and everything went haywire from there. So that is the problem. We need to have a team. Your team starts from the bench. And I don't mean like the players that you have on the bench. You need to have the right technical crew to actually do that. We are not getting it right, and we're still not getting it right now when it comes to the Super Eagles. Really. I keep on saying this. You go and you get a person like Jose Peseiro, who you think, I don't know why they believe that he could actually deliver. Because
I had a problem with him when he came on board.
Exactly. A lot of people have a problem with him because we don't know what he has done. we don't know how good is
you
his
don't
CV.
know what he has done, or you're not satisfied with his past antecedents.
Really,
Yes.
we don't really know much about him. You know, he just came out from nowhere. They gave him the job. They took it away. They gave him back. They gave it back to him again.
Yes.
You know, all these things. So we're still not getting it right. I still believe that he's not the right man for the Eagles right now. I pray that I get proven wrong, because it seems like the NFF is sticking with him no matter what. So I pray that I get proven wrong, but I don't believe he's the right man for us to take on football where it needs to get right now with the Super Eagles. So coming back to the under-20 now, the Flying Eagles, we need to get it right with these boys. We need to get the right blend. We need to get the right players so that we've seen it before, how we've actually graduated players from these age grades to the national team. We've seen how it happens, and we've seen the success that these guys have brought us. I hope we can go back to doing things like that, and maybe we can get it right with this current crop of Flying Eagles.
I hope so. I've seen where Nigeria has taken very young players from, the lesser leagues and then turned them into something. We saw the likes of Osimhen came from there.
Exactly.
We saw Paul Onuachu came from there. Even the young Messi, Bokbola, we saw, he was part of the team. And I'm actually looking forward to that young Messi. I haven't seen him in action in a while.
Yeah,
so.
well, we just hope right now that we can actually start this tournament on the right foot, go to the AFCON, do ourselves proud, and then hopefully graduate a couple of these players to the national team so that we can reinvigorate the Super Eagles, because they need that.
Okay, also, regardless of our flaws as a nation when it comes to a footballing nation in our local league, and then getting to Flying Eagles and Super Eagles, as someone, that will take us to our next story, a coach of one of the coach of Egypt, so to speak, one of the countries will be facing at the campaign. I mean, the Under-20 African Cup of Nations, and that is Kaba Mahmoud. He is the coach of Egypt. He does not agree. He still thinks that Nigeria is a tough opponent for Egypt. Do you really share that sentiment?
Well, he's the manager, and he's allowed to be diplomatic and, of course, play a little bit of mind games here and there. Of course, he'll not tell you that.
Do you think that is a mind game?
Of course, he'll not tell you that Nigeria is in shambles and we're going to go and beat them silly. No, he'll definitely tell you that they have very strong players, and it's true to a certain degree. I mean, like, we are from the inside. We know what's going on with Nigerian football.
Yes.
Yeah, but he hears the name.
He probably does not have any idea.
You hear the name Nigeria, and you think, okay, Nigeria is a powerhouse of African football and whatnot. But we're not what we used to be before. Back then, that was when we used to win games before they're even played, because the opponents get scared because they're playing Nigeria and they know we're going to go there and do the business. So it's whether it's mind games, whether he's truly afraid of the Eagles, we actually will not know that. But he can say, he's allowed to say these things. You know, usually you don't usually expect a manager to go to a press conference or to grant an interview and then say, no, our opponents are rubbish, we're going to go there and beat them 7-0. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't. So he's allowed to say that.
Okay, so we are looking forward to the Under-20 team doing what they know how to do best. I mean, putting all of the energy, and regardless of the situations that we are clouded with in our football in the country, I hope that they're resilient players and they would want to go far. This is how you show that you are the man for the job, and I'm sure that they understand that assignment. But away from that, Boxing Day, it's really significant because we're having the Premier League return, and everybody has been waiting for this action 1 week after the World Cup, after we saw Argentina and, of course, the team, the defending champions of France, it couldn't defend that champion. We saw the action, the thrillers, everything that went down on the beach. It was a rush of adrenaline for a lot of people all over the world. But 1 week later, it's coming back, and the Premier League is back, because we'll be seeing lots of actions from this afternoon. We see some players and their teams representing and slugging it out on the pitch, and we can't wait for that action. But before then, let's see how it's it stands before the World Cup, the World Cup actually shifted our attention from what the table was like. But let's look at the table and see which of the teams are still topping and still maintaining their positions. But if we don't have that, we know that, of course, Arsenal is still sitting top, number one position. And Arsenal fans cannot get that out of their system.
They cannot. They're not allowing us to get it out of our own system. I mean, like every Arsenal fan will actually like to tell you to go look at the table and see who's on top. Well, it's a good time to be an Arsenal fan. Yeah, it's really a good time to be an Arsenal fan, and we won't begrudge them that. They've been out in the doldrums for a very long time, and to find themselves in this position midway through the season, in this position is absolutely fantastic. I think even though this is a different kind of season from the season that we've seen before, in the last 10 Premier League seasons, only Liverpool failed to win the championship while leading at Christmas. And
that's Christmas jinx.
Yes, so that's the thing. So Arsenal now have the right to dream. They can actually dream that they can go there and have a good showing, and of course take this momentum to the end of the season and hopefully clinch that title. Lots of the other teams have a lot to say about that, but that is the excitement of the Premier League, and we're glad it's back. It's going to be Boxing Day, absolutely phenomenal. We have seen some Boxing Day blockbusters over the years.
True.
And I believe this season won't be any different, even though it's a different kind of season from the one that we're used to seeing. So we're looking forward to it. We're glad that it's back. We've missed club football, and of course, what better way to bring it back than with the Premier League?
All right, we cannot wait for the action, but let's take a look at the tables and the fixtures for today. We'll be seeing some games earlier in the day, and we'll see the likes of Brentford and Tottenham. Of course, they will be playing earlier in the day. Leicester City and Newcastle will be playing as well. Crystal Palace and Fulham will be playing at 4. Everton and Wolves will be playing as well, and Southampton and Brighton will also be in action. So looking at the table now, we know that Arsenal, of course, will play later. That's why I didn't mention they'll be playing later in the day. I think that's one of the latest matches we'll be having.
Later in the evening.
Later in the evening. So let's take a look at Brentford and Tottenham. That seems to be like the biggest match during the day.
Yeah, on paper, Brentford Tottenham seem to be the pick of the bunch from these matches that we're actually looking at, and not so because of the names involved, but because of the form Brentford is in. I mean, like, they've played some fantastic games this season. They've gotten some really, really good results. And the thing with Brentford is you don't know which Brentford is turning up. You understand? They could be the ones to come and obliterate you, and they can actually be the ones that can get beat 7-0 or 6-0. But so that's the thing. So it's like a mixed bag, and so goes for Tottenham. Their form has been patchy this season. They're not getting it right. A lot of people are accusing them of playing negative football, which is not the Tottenham way, but it's the Conte way. And I think it's high time Tottenham fans actually came to grips with that they are they have to play like their manager. And when you get a manager like Conte who's conservative, then you get conservative football, just like what happened with Jose Mourinho. So that's the case. So I think on paper, Brentford Tottenham seems to be the blockbuster when it comes to these matches that we're looking at right now. And it's definitely going to be a cracker, no matter what happens. It's definitely going to be a cracker.
I'm looking forward to watch that match.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, talking about Antonio Conte way, that would take us to our next story, where he said he was going to rest some of his players. I mean, the World Cup players. And we will see the likes of Hugo not playing. And we saw the likes of some of the players. This guy is on suspension. Rodrigo is on suspension. And also, this guy would not be in action because he was in the World Cup. Romero will not be playing. So he has made that decision that he will be playing or resting all the World Cup stars. Do you think that is a good decision at this critical time? Judging from don't forget, you just said that you don't know the Brentford you will be meeting. Is it the good, very, very good informed Brentford, or the one that's gone to sleep?
Yeah, the thing is, in as much as you want to play your best team all the time, you have to understand that these guys are human beings at the end of the day. I mean, like, take a player like Hugo Lloris. He played almost every game in the World Cup, and he went all the way to the final, and all those exertions and everything like that. He didn't have much of a break between the break in the season to the World Cup, and now not much of a break between the World Cup and now. So playing him now, there's lots of exhaustion that's going to be coming in, and I think resting these players is actually the way to go. You have to, even as much as you want to play your best players, you need to rest a couple of them to be able to recover them for future. We always say this: a season is not a sprint; it's a marathon, and you have to get those players, get them recovered in time so that they can face the rest of the season, and we can actually do that. So I think Antonio Conte is doing the right thing for his players. He's actually doing the right thing for his players. Right thing for the game, right thing for the club, not particularly, because most of these guys, they're his best guys. You know, they're his best guys. Romero is solid at the back. Hugo Lloris is his number one captain, and so it's a lot. And will they be missed? Depending on which Brentford turns up. And if the right Brentford turns up for Brentford, then it's going to be a tough day at the office for Antonio Conte.
No, you know, I'm actually not very comfortable with this decision for the fact that, you know, Thomas, the head coach of Brentford, just got his contract extended. And for a man who turned the game upside down in a good way. Brentford has been in exile from the Premier League for about over 40 years.
Exactly.
And then, you know, this man came in and then brought them back. And for somebody who just got that kind of promotion or signed that kind of contract, he would want to make a statement. And Brentford is not relenting. Last season, they ended the tournament on 13th position. Currently, I think they're occupying the 10th position on the league. So don't you think that there's going to be some kind of upset?
That's the thing. That's why we keep on saying, depending on which Brentford turns up. If the right Brentford turns up, and they can actually beat any team on their day, because they've shown that they can actually do that. But just going back to Antonio Conte and his decisions to rest those players, I mean, these guys need to rest. That is just the bottom line. You can't have every season.
What if we're still playing the World Cup?
Every season.
What if we're still playing the World Cup? Just imagine. Those players can just imagine that they're still playing the World Cup.
No, it can't. I mean, like, the World Cup is for 1 month. You know, you program yourself that you're going there for 1 month and you're going to play 6-7 games, and that's that. No matter how long the World Cup is, those are the number of games that you play when you get to the final. So the thing is, these players need to rest. Their bodies need to rest. And you're talking about players like Hugo Lloris, who's on the other side of 30. You understand? When players get to reach these kind of ages, then definitely they need
more time to rest.
Of course, they need more time to rest and recover and then do that. We just hope that he has enough firepower on the bench, which I don't think he has, to be able to cover for these absences. And I heard Richarlison is even injured right now and he's not coming back. Even if he was available, we won't be able to play because of injury. So I think Antonio Conte has a conundrum on his hands right now. If he doesn't rest these players, he runs the risk of them getting exhausted before the end of the season, when he might need them most, when the run-in gets tougher. And if he rests them now, his best players, and then Brentford comes and obliterates him, then that's another problem. You understand? After this long break, you come back, you need a good result so that you can face the rest of the games. If this result doesn't go your way, it puts a damper on whatever it is that you're trying to do. So it's a dicey one and is on a knife edge, and that's why we are looking forward to seeing what actually happens on this game. Coming to Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is a phenomenal manager. He's shown that he can actually do. He can run up against the best of them, and he's done phenomenal when it comes to Brentford. Yes, will he be influenced by the fact that he's got a new contract? Will he want to justify that? Yeah, he could be able to do that, and he might be complacent at the say, okay, you're giving me a new contract, I can go and do whatever I want. So,
I don't see that with Thomas.
So it all depends on how the game pans out. We're just looking forward to it. It's on a knife edge, and we know it's going to be an exciting one.
All right. Against all odds, Conte has decided to rest his players from the World Cup, as he will be facing Brentford in a few hours to come. They will be on the pitch slugging it out. But there are other matches that we need to look out for We have Leicester City and Newcastle, Crystal Palace and Fulham, Everton and Wolves, and Southampton and Brighton. Which other games are you looking forward to?
Leicester and Newcastle. Leicester Newcastle is going to be quite an interesting one because Leicester City have not had a very good season.
And have you seen the form of Newcastle?
Exactly, and Newcastle has
like
been
they're just this silent warriors, you know, to just come do what they have to do, and then they're just winning.
The thing about Newcastle is, I think the money that they have has now given them real confidence and they're playing with a real swagger.
Wow.
And they're doing the business really, and I really enjoy the way they're going about their business. They're not being overtaken by the money and going out and spending huge sums of money buying marquee players and all that. They can actually do the business for them. They've been strategic in what they do. They're picking up 1 or 2 players like this because they know they have the money and they can actually do that. So I think what the Newcastle is doing is absolutely phenomenal. Eddie Howe is doing a very great job when it comes to what's going on in Newcastle. And I think for the next maybe 2 seasons, they will be a team to watch in the Premier League if they spend their money wisely. Yeah, if they don't get overtaken by the money, it doesn't go to their heads and they go start spending money on players that they don't need. But if they spend their money wisely, Newcastle is going to be a very formidable force to deal with in the Premier League. And Leicester right now trying to make a mark, trying to get back, show a little toughness, you know, get back to the swing of things, because Leicester used to be a phenomenal team that we used to be afraid of. Unfortunately, they didn't do much of a good business when it came to the last transfer window. Sold a lot of players. They didn't bring a lot of people in, and that's affecting them on the pitch right now. So they really want to make a statement. And even last season, before we went on the break, I mean, we were talking about Mr. Rodgers getting fired, and their inability to fire him rested on the fact that they were not able to pay him to actually fire him and all that. So their business off the pitch has actually affected them on the pitch as well, and so they would really like to make a statement, and I think a good showing against Newcastle will be the right place for them to do that.
And of course, Everton and Wolves. Wolves have been able to upset some of the biggest teams in the Premier League just before we went for the World Cup.
Yeah, even though overall they're not having a very good season. Both teams are not having a very good season overall.
And these teams that are not having very good season have a way of, you know, coming back when they're about to face a team that is making a mark, or probably maybe somewhere remarkable on
and
the
you know,
table.
when there are breaks in the season, you really can't tell exactly where a team is. So I believe after these run of fixtures, that's we can be able to gauge and see, okay, well, this is where this team are. They're making a difference from where they were before the break. No, they're still playing the same way. No, there's an improvement. All those things, we get to see them after these fixtures are played. That's when we can be able to gauge the level of preparedness or otherwise of these teams.
You know, there's a lot to talk about when we delve into the Premier League, judging from the fact that it has been missing in action for weeks now. And just a lot of people would want to say 1 or 2 things about it. But I think we'll take this conversation later when we come back on 360 Sports. But before then, I'd like to say thank you to my ride or die, okay, on the sports show
It's always
this
a pleasure.
morning.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right, and we'll see you 5:30 p.m. on Trust Television. My name is Martia Umar. I'll see you again. Bye for now.